Reverend Jim Blake has more than 3 decades of study and service in New Thought traditions and organizations. He rejoined Unity World Headquarters as CEO in 2016, having previously served as the Chief Information Officer and Vice President of Operations from 2006 to 2011. Prior to being named CEO, he served with global leading innovators in the traffic and energy industries. Reverend Blake has more than 20 years of executive leadership experience with some of the fastest growing and most innovative companies in North America. No wonder we're seeing good stuff happen here, huh? Jim has a bachelor's degree in computer science from Central Methodist University and a master's of divinity from the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, which I really like that seminary. Yeah, ooh. Yeah. He was ordained in 2021, and his first book, The Zen Executive, Gems of Wisdom for Enlightened Leadership, won a Platinum 2023 Hermes Award, huh? Put your hands together for that. So I am really proud that I got to introduce the CEO, and he's going to come and talk to you about Evolve, recognizing progress. So again, get up on your feet, put your hands together for the CEO of Unity World Headquarters.
Okay, so I want to begin, and before I get started, and just say thank you. Thank you to the INTA leadership. Thank you, Tim. Thank you to the membership for choosing this venue for this annual gathering. It is truly an honor and a privilege for us to have you here, to have your consciousness here, and to have your presence here. So we are going to work our tails off to make sure you have a wonderful experience this week and to be of service and support in every way we can. So welcome on behalf of our board and our executive team, and just thank you so much for being here this week. Okay, so when I saw the theme and the topic, I went down about 40 different rabbit holes, but I started to think about, okay, rather than sort of think about the future and evolving forward, in what ways have we progressed? In what ways have we evolved? And I thought it might be a fun way to kick off the week to kind of look around New Thought as a whole and just think about the ways and talk about the ways and celebrate the ways and point to the ways that we may be progressing and that we may be evolving, and even point to some of our colleagues and their visionary projects and partnerships. And then towards the end, I'll close with what that may mean for us going forward. How's that sound? Okay, so starting out, there are lots of subtle yet visible shifts in all of our traditions, I think, in our commitments to embracing differences. We've had to own our histories. We've had to begin updating our language and our imaging in terms of being more inclusive. We've had to start to be more clear on our positions. We've had to make commitments to social justice of all kinds. Yes? We've had to go from focusing on our individual inner work and realizing we must manifest this in the outer world and participate and put feet to our prayers, as we say, right? We've committed to interfaith collaboration. We've even begun evaluating, discussing, and maybe considering evolving some of our own teachings, or at least how we may apply them. How else? So Tim talked a lot about this. He teed it up perfectly for me. Collaboration in all its forms. And he even talked about the consciousness aspect, which I think is extraordinarily important. And I want to shout out to all the people that came before us, the shoulders we stand upon, but most importantly, the consciousness that came before us. Because there were leaders for decades before us that held the consciousness in unprecedented New Thought collaboration and partnership. And what I'm going to tell you is, there are people like me that get to stand up here and talk about cool things that have happened, but the consciousness for this stuff happened decades ago. It happened long before I even stepped foot onto this campus and into this role. And so I bow to them and the work that they did, and I am aware of the work that they did, and I am certainly grateful for it. The important thing to consider, though, and we'll talk about it more at the end, is what consciousness work are we going to do this week that plants the seeds for the next generation behind us. Thank you. What else? What other forms of collaboration? Membership models that include everyone. So you're going, yeah, Jim, that's basic. That's us, right? Here's the INTA, the Affiliated New Thought Network, the Association for Global New Thought. But you know what? That was an evolution. People stepped up beyond their individual tradition. They stepped out. They decided to form a group. They decided to do work together, and they decided to collaborate. They talked about what Tim said earlier. They had the courage. It was an evolution in consciousness. It was to step beyond the fear, to step into collaboration, into cooperation, and to release the idea of competition. Once they did that, programs like AG&T Season for Nonviolence. How many of you have participated in that in your church, right? So collective New Thought collaboration programs evolved. And I believe, still to this day, this could serve as a template for something that we could reuse over and over if we could think about, and like you talked about, Tim, think about new ways we could use this template in other ways across New Thought, because it really is a beautiful collective consciousness effort that happens every year across all of our centers. Innovative digital platforms have evolved and come forth. For instance, the New Thought Media Network, whose visionary leader, I believe, is in this room somewhere, maybe in the back. How about that guy, right? That's an evolution. Mind, Body, Spirit FM, if you haven't heard about that, that is a podcasting network. So there's an evolution in delivery models for how our message is being delivered. And so we celebrate colleagues who have that vision and the ability to bring it forth. And then this is new, and I don't have a comprehensive list. And by the way, this isn't a comprehensive list either. These were top of mind things that I just thought we could point to as an example of our capability to evolve, but honoring one another's credentials. So among our traditions, we started to honor another's credentials. Of course, they have to go through some of the training of that specific tradition, but that is a huge step, folks. That is a big step in consciousness to invite someone who's trained in another tradition into your centers and allow them to teach and preach. And so I just want to continue to say that these steps and evolutions in consciousness are quite impressive, and it shows that we as New Thought have the capacity for great and powerful evolution and collaboration. Tim already mentioned this one. INTA, moving to Unity Village. And if that wasn't exciting enough for you, Science of Mind Archives and Library has already landed on campus. And who wins in those two things? We do. Why? Because some of the most potent and powerful New Thought teachings in the world are right here in one place. Some of the greatest minds in the history of the world, the things they wrote, they thought, they did on napkins. I mean, things you can't even imagine are sitting right here in one place. It's extraordinary, and we are very fortunate to have it all in one place. And again, these conversations, these thoughts began long before any of us thought about gathering in this room. The power of consciousness. This was a historic gathering, one of a kind, 2 years ago. The people of African descent in New Thought. Yeah, 350 black leaders from every New Thought tradition gathered in one place for the first time in the history of New Thought. They're going to do it again in about a month. And so, what is it, 2 weeks? 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It was one of the most powerful, beautiful things I'd ever seen in being in New Thought. But again, an evolution. It was evolutionary, I will tell you that. It was an evolutionary moment. It was an evolutionary experience. And just another example of evolving that's happening in New Thought. Reverend David Alexander, how many of you know him? So he forged what I think was a groundbreaking partnership with the Fellowship for Affirming Ministries. The Fellowship for Affirming Ministries is a multi-denominational group of primarily African-American Christian leaders and laity that represent churches and faith-based organizations all over the USA. The difference is they are closely networked and linked with United Church of Christ and UFMCC. Totally different tradition outside of New Thought. But he forged a powerful relationship with this group whereby we share theology, social justice initiatives, culture, and so much more. Groundbreaking. And they share in all the same things from a New Thought perspective. Really, really beautiful work there. And actually, in 2018, he led the discussions for them to have their 350-person annual leadership conference here. Again, groundbreaking, evolutionary experience for an entire group of different religious tradition to have a leadership conference in a New Thought campus. So, Spirituality and Health and Unity magazine. So a magazine of a particular tradition merged with a more mainstream title in an effort to educate and reach new seekers. Basically, people who are spiritual but not religious will now be exposed to New Thought truth teachings for the first time in their life. So what does all that mean? What's next? So it seems like we have some examples of evolutionary powers, I guess I would say, in New Thought. So what does that mean? Well, I can't really look around religion because we're pretty unique in terms of what we do and how we do it. Look at the partnerships, look at the collaborations. That doesn't happen in a lot of traditional religions. So I had to go outside of sort of the niche of religion and look at other industries and other markets and maybe other niches and do the research and say, what happens when you see collaboration of this type? What happens when you see partnerships of this magnitude? And basically, the research says it signals evolutionary leaps forward. And those evolutionary leaps basically have 4 characteristics. Number 1, increased innovation and technological advancement, which would suggest that as we come together to share expertise, resources, and ideas, it will lead to the development of new products, services, and technologies that will drive our growth. The second characteristic was something called new ecosystem development, which means our increased collaboration would lead to the emergence of new ministry models, new partnerships, and even greater opportunities for collaboration. The third characteristic, the increased collaboration among our different traditions would indicate a shift and a period of co-opetition, which is what Tim spoke to, where we simultaneously grow our own traditions while growing and shining a light on New Thought overall. And then finally, what we in the regular business world would call market expansion. Increased collaboration leads to additional opportunities inside and outside of New Thought, like the opportunity where Spirituality and Health was able to merge with Unity magazine. And so all that to say, what we're doing and have done points to even greater evolutionary possibilities. And so don't lose sight. Often we are so good at looking back at our rich history, we're even really good at looking at the future. Don't lose sight at the momentum we've already established, not only in consciousness, but in activity. And I want to shift this perspective that people have that say, oh, but Jim, our teachings have gone mainstream. Great! That is fantastic! That means I don't have to spend 6 hours trying to reprogram you. That means you already have a flair for what I'm teaching. That means my point from A to B is this long. My point to really connect to truth is this far instead of this far. Does that make sense? It means all of us have a much shorter path to truth with the people that we're trying to serve. That's why the spirituality and health thing happened. It's why more opportunities like that can happen. It's why what Tim talked about is truly, truly possible. There is no competition. There is an abundance of spiritual but not religious people, and even religious people out there that are seeking this message in all of its form, in churches, out of churches, online, in apps. They're looking for it anywhere and everywhere they can get it. And Tim was right. At the time we talked, I suggested that we didn't have to go and remake our entire messaging and delivery style to reach a younger audience. Because every day someone turns 35, 36, 37. So you don't pick up your organization who's successfully serving this age demographic and try to move them down the chain, okay? You don't have to do that. You just wait. And they will find you. They will come to you. And in some cases, you have to wait for them to be ready, right, for those teachings. However, I'm happy to report that I have had some exceptional, groundbreaking meeting with the next generation folks in Unity and the IYO in Unity, and they are eager and excited, and I feel like we're making some inroads with how we might be able to develop some tools and resources and product services in conjunction with them. Because I can't do it because I'm 50. They're using things I don't even know on phones, I don't even know what they are. But if they help us, we can get there. And so it's both and. We continue serving the people we're serving, and we do it really well, and we continue to try to make inroads with the next generation, and we get excited that our message has gone mainstream because it increases the number of people that we can reach through all these beautiful and innovative ways that we have been involving. So in summary, many efforts past and present we can point to indicating that we have a willingness to involve and change with the times. The types of evolutions that we have seen, that we just talked about, they seem to indicate a future of innovation, opportunity, and growth for all of us. Organizations like INTA, events like this Congress, create what? The space, the opportunity for the consciousness, the divine ideas, the creative collaborations, partnerships to form and unfold, adding to the evolutionary field. Let us celebrate our progress, continue to affirm our continued evolution, growth, and success together. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.